Hello my friends, in today's video we will be comparing GoPro Hero 10 Black and Insta360 One R 1-inch edition. Both of these are very capable devices, but they represent very different action camera concepts. Hero 10 is currently the most advanced classic action camera. One R has brought a lot of innovation into the action camera market with its modular design. In this video we will compare these devices and also concepts to find out which one is more suitable for you. The first big difference between Hero 10 and One R is the construction. Hero 10 is a classic action camera. It uses a water-resistant square body with the lens on the front side and screens on both sides. One R is a modular system that always consists of three parts: the core, battery base, and the camera mod. An advantage of the classic GoPro approach is that it is simpler and more durable because it is just one solid piece. Classic design also allows it to have a much larger screen on the backside and second screen on the front side. An advantage of One R is that you can use it with the other two mods. In this video I will only be talking about 1-inch mod, but the option to use 4K mod and 360 mod is definitely a big advantage. The second advantage is that you can use a larger boosted battery. The third advantage is that if you break any of the parts, you don't need to replace the whole camera. Hero 10 is a little bit smaller, but only because of the 1-inch mod on One R, which sticks out on both sides. Hero 10 is water resistant up to 10 meters. One R is water resistant up to 5 meters with 1-inch sensor, but you need to use the included housing. The second big difference is the sensor and the lens. GoPro follows the classic concept here as well, and it uses 1/2.3-inch sensor paired with a f2.5 lens. As the name suggests, One R 1-inch uses a 1-inch type sensor. This sensor is about 4 times larger than the GoPro sensor. On the other hand, it uses a darker f3.2 lens, which only lets in 1/3 of the light per area. The lens on One R 1-inch is significantly wider. It uses a 14.4mm lens, whereas the GoPro uses about 16mm lens after the stabilization crop. Of course, you can crop or zoom in, but that always decreases the image quality, so I like to use the widest field of view most of the time. One R's field of view is more dramatic and immersive, whereas the GoPro field of view is more natural. I can't really tell you which field of view is better because that is purely a matter of preference. The amount of detail that they can capture is actually difficult to judge because of the difference in the focal length. Both cameras can shoot 5.3K video. I can say that the video from both looks really good. The amount of detail is actually pretty similar. The GoPro benefits from having a narrower lens, which is easier to make at a certain level of optical qualities. One R has an extremely wide lens, but it can still capture a very impressive amount of detail. I am very happy with both in this regard. The colors are quite different. GoPro colors are pretty neutral. They are highly saturated but still accurate. One R sometimes prefers colder tones and a bit of green balance. It also prefers brighter exposure in some situations. I probably generally prefer GoPro colors, but there are some scenes where One R does better. GoPro can work very well with the dynamic range and automatic exposure. Hero 10 can do a local tone mapping, which is basically a form of HDR processing that can preserve the detail in certain parts of the frame. That works really well, and I can say that the dynamic range on Hero 10 is very good. One R actually has a more difficult job here because it usually captures more of the bright sky due to the wider field of view. It can also preserve a lot of detail in both highlights and shadows. There were pretty big differences in my testing scenes. One R was a lot better in this walking scene with shadows, but GoPro was a lot better in this bright sunlight scene, so it is probably a draw. On the other hand, One R is significantly better in the low light. There is still some amount of noise of course, but it can retain a lot more detail. GoPro is actually not bad for what it is. That brighter f2.5 lens helps a lot. Not enough to match the One R, but enough to provide solid action camera low light footage. Both cameras let you set the amount of sharpening, which is extremely important. All of the samples that you have seen in this video were shot using medium setting on both cameras. Overall, I would say that the difference in the field of view makes a bigger difference than the amount of detail that you can get with each device. One R basically uses that larger sensor and high quality optics to provide extremely wide 14.4mm field of view without compromising the image quality. Hero 10 does really well considering that it still uses a pretty small sensor. An advantage of Hero 10 are the frame rates. Thanks to the GP2 processor, it can shoot 5.3K up to 60p and 4K up to 120p. That is a very impressive achievement. One R 1-inch can shoot 5.3K video up to 30p and 4K video up to 60p. That is still a fantastic result considering that it uses a power and cooling hungry 1-inch sensor. Not even Sony can shoot 4K 60p using this sensor in ZV-1. An important difference is the minimum focus distance. That is a weakness of One R 1-inch. The official minimum focus distance is 1 meter, but I would say that the sharpness is acceptable at about half a meter. Minimum focus distance of Hero 10 is 30 centimeters, which is suitable for close-up shooting, but objects very close to the camera won't be completely sharp. The next big difference is the workflow. Once again, GoPro follows the usual procedure. You set up everything in camera and you will get the footage that is ready to use out of the camera. One R shoots footage that needs to be processed in a desktop or smartphone app. An advantage of this approach is that you can make a lot of changes to the footage in the post-production. You can set the field of view after you have shot the footage. I much prefer choosing what looks best on a large screen instead of guessing what it will look like on a small screen and having no chance to fix that. For me personally, this is a very important feature and one of the main reasons to get the One R. The stabilization is also done in the app, but we will get to that in a minute. An obvious disadvantage is that this is an extra step that you need to do before you can actually use the footage. If you download, edit and post your content on mobile devices, it is not an issue. This exporting step is basically seamless in that case. Insta360 has a great mobile app and I especially like to use it on an iPad. One R can also shoot out of the camera ready footage if you turn the Pro mode off, but the stabilization is a lot worse in that mode. That brings us to the stabilization, which is fortunately great on both devices. Static shots and panning are super stable on both, so we won't be able to see much difference here. When it comes to walking, One R looks just a little bit more fluid. It can deal with up and down movement a little bit better, but the difference is not huge. Here the One R actually benefits from wider field of view because that is always easier to stabilize. One R's flow state stabilization uses gyro metadata instead of conventional digital image stabilization. A huge advantage of that is that it is not affected by the low light. And no, it doesn't need high shutter speeds like Sony's Catalyst system. Hero 10 is still pretty good in dusk situations though. It only starts to struggle in very low light, which is a big improvement over Hero 9 and older GoPros. Overall, the stabilization is just a little bit better with One R if you use flow state. As you probably know, Hero 10 has some overheating issues after about 20 minutes of high bitrate video recording. I was able to get more than that, but the camera was pretty hot. That can actually be completely fixed by using a cage which works as a heatsink. You can have unlimited 5.3K video recording with this small rig cage, which will be linked in the description. I will talk more about that in my upcoming Hero 10 accessories video. One R doesn't have major overheating issues. It may get warm, but it is not as dramatic as with the GoPro. You can also use the cage as a heatsink with One R if you want to. A big advantage of GoPro are both screens. Hero 10 uses a 2.27-inch rear display. This is a very good display and it significantly improves user experience in comparison to older GoPros. It is very detailed and sufficiently bright, so it is generally a joy to work with. There are also some big improvements regarding the 1.4-inch front screen. The first improvement is that both the front and the back screen can work at the same time. That means that you don't need to change any of the settings to be able to see yourself. The second improvement is that there is no lag on the front screen at all. It is as fast as the back screen. The user interface is pretty good in my opinion. All of the settings are relatively easy to find and understand. The preset system can also be very useful and it can speed up the operation once you get used to it. The responsiveness is also much better with the GP2 processor. A downside to One R's modular design is the smaller screen. It is a 1.3-inch screen, which is okay for composing the shots, but that is basically it. I'm used to similar screen sizes from devices such as the Pocket 2. Of course, it is not great, but in my opinion, it is a reasonable sacrifice for the modular design. You can mount the screen on the other side and see yourself, but it is obviously not as convenient as just turning the GoPro. The user interface is actually very good, probably as good as it can be at that screen size. Just like all similar devices, it uses swipe gestures to access the playback menu, settings, manual exposure, and so on. Despite the screen size, everything is possible to control on the screen. The menu is logically organized and the items are large enough. One specific downside of the GoPro that I get asked about a lot is that you can't record video and see the preview on your smartphone at the same time. The preview will stop working once you hit the record button. With One R, you can record the video and see the preview on the smartphone at the same time. Hero 10 uses the same 1720 mAh batteries as Hero 9. The battery life is pretty solid. I was able to get about 75 minutes of continuous 5.3K 25p recording with hypersmooth stabilization and high bitrate setting on a single charge. With the One R, it depends on the type of the battery. Normal battery base lasts for about 80 to 90 minutes, which is also a very good result. It is the same with vertical battery base. The more interesting option is to use the boosted battery base. That one will last twice as much. In that case, you will get by far the best battery life on all action cameras on the market. Surprisingly, One R has even a better selection of accessories than the Hero 10. First of all, the 4K mod and 360 mod are pretty significant accessories. Insta360 also makes some very cool first-party accessories, such as this vertical battery grip with a bumper, which creates this vertical filming setup. Boosted battery base also has GoPro finger mounts, so we can use all of the GoPro mounts without the housing. Accessories such as the cages, filters, mounts, waterproof housing, and so on are available for both cameras, of course. I have made a video about the best accessories for One R, which will be linked in the description. A video about the best GoPro accessories will be available soon. The audio quality is better on the GoPro. It is actually really good, the voices are really clear, and it is almost as good as with DJI Pocket 2, which is the best in class in terms of the audio quality. The audio quality on One R is not quite as good. It is a little bit muffled and I usually have to raise the volume quite a bit to match the -24 LUFS value. It is still usable, but there is definitely a room for improvement. To sum up, as expected, I can say that both Hero 10 and One R 1-inch are really good action cameras, but they are indeed very different. An oversimplified summary is that the GoPro provides maximal convenience without sacrificing the output, whereas the One R provides more advanced options. The main advantages of the GoPro are the durability, higher frame rates, closer minimal focus distance, larger displays, and footage that is ready to use out of the camera. The main advantages of the One R are modular design, a little bit better stabilization, post-production options, low light performance including stabilization, and accessories including the larger battery option. A very important difference is the wider field of view on One R. Surprisingly, GoPro was able to get very close to One R 1 inch in terms of the details. The colors and dynamic range depend on the specific scene. If you are choosing between these two cameras, you really need to take a look at the advantage of both cameras and decide which characteristics are more important to you. There will be no clear winner this time, but I hope that this video has provided all of the information that you need to make the right decision. Once again, I don't mind having both, so that is also an option. So that's it for this video, thank you for watching, I hope that you liked this video and that you have found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share opinion, please do so in the comment section and see you next time.